Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to WOW Podcast. By all means, go to wowpodcast.me. That's WOWPODCAST.me. Today we have a special guest. We have Cari Lynn Webb. She's here to talk to us about her book, Thankfully in Love. Cari, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
All right, so tell me about Thankfully in Love.
Let's see. Thankfully in Love is an anthology, so there's 4 authors in it, and my contribution was a novella titled Love Guides the Way. I got invited into it. 2 of my writing partners and dear friends are Melinda Curtis and Anna J. Stewart, and they got with Arc Manor, and then I got invited in through them, so it was fabulous.
And when did this start? When did this connection start?
The connection with Arc Manor or the connection with my writing crew? Arc Manor
With
is
your writing
new.
crew.
Oh, with the writing crew. Oh my gosh, that's been years in the making. We have known each other for more than a decade, and we started as Romance Writers of America has a bunch of small chapters within their organization. We met in Sacramento, and we started as just friends, and then we kind of looked at each other and said, we have got to get serious about this publishing thing. So then we all became each other's accountability partners. Like let's meet every Wednesday, let's write so many pages, and we're going to give them to each other. And there's something about that. When you know somebody is writing 10 pages, you better get your 10 pages in because you don't want to be the slacker, of the
Right.
group. You don't want to be the one that has nothing, to show for yourself. And so it really, I would recommend for anybody who's listening who's a new writer, get yourself some accountability people. And then we moved into critiquing each other's work. And that's where I think all of us built up a really tough skin. And so now we still critique, we still plot together, we still write together, still go to each other for everything we need. I consider them my sort of writing tribe. But I will contend that nobody can tear apart my pages quite like they can. Even an editor, you get editor comments back and I'm like, oh, this is nothing compared to
Right.
what my critique partners did to me before. But you're in a safe spot when your critique partners can be like, I just hate your character. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I got to change that. So that's long time in the making, but lifesavers, just friends. This business is not easy, and everybody needs those people that just get it, right?
Right.
Just get everything you think, because you think every book you write is going to be okay, I sit down for them. The next book, just turned in my 17th book, and I think, I got it. I got this process down. I know what I'm
Right.
doing, and it never fails. Halfway through the book, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. Why did I
Yeah.
ever think I could write?
Yeah.
So that's the history behind that.
So what were you doing before writing? What type of, I guess, life and career did you have before writing?
In my past life, my brother and I owned an air conditioning company. We lived in Maui, and we owned the company for 16 years. He did all the technical outside. I did all the back office, payroll, all that kind of stuff, and ran the office. And when I was there, I was always been a huge romance reader since I was young. And while we lived on Maui, this was in the time of bookstores, mind you, right, where Barnes and Noble and they were all there. And so I would go into the bookstores, and this is before Amazon, before I could order all my books, and I was just a voracious reader, and I just cleared out the shelves of the romance section, and I was like, I can't find what I want to read. And so one day I sat down and said, I'm going to try to write what I want to read. I didn't tell anybody, and so I wrote at work when it was quiet, and then wrote at home, and then finally had enough courage to show my husband, and I said, should I continue writing or should I possibly take up acting? Like, what, is this awful?
Right.
And he was like, you should keep going with this. And so we did. And so I kept going and then started learning what I didn't know, all
Yeah.
plotting and conflict and all that kind of stuff, because when you first start writing, it's almost better to not know what you don't know because you just write for the joy of it. And
Right.
and then you start realizing as rejection letters and stuff come in that there's a lot you need to piece together, and then it becomes work, and that becomes a job.
So speaking of knowing what you don't know, what have you been, I guess, knowing and unknowing about this whole pandemic?
think well, you don't know. Let's see. You mean in terms of how it affects writing or just life in general?
I think life in general.
Yeah, the pandemic. Wow. The pandemic has been interesting for all of us, hasn't it? So I work
Yeah.
from home. I'm used to being at home. But then all of a sudden everybody else was home. I've got teenagers and then my husband was home. And I'm like, why is everyone here in my face? And they don't mean it badly, right? Like they're not trying to interfere, but when someone's in the kitchen, you're like, hey, I think I might need a snack too. So
Yeah.
you head
Yeah.
in there and it breaks up your writing, you know. So the pandemic has been interesting. It was funny though. I did tell my editor because I was on back-to-back deadlines when we first went into lockdown and then came into another deadline about a month ago. And so I was writing through the pandemic, which I think was helpful because it was very jarring for a lot of people. But then the biggest problem for me was I don't leave the house anyway, I should tell you. But when you tell me I can't leave the house, suddenly I need to go somewhere. I don't know where I
Yeah.
needed to go, but I needed to go. It's like,
Right.
but no, I really need to go, but I didn't, right? You don't need to go anywhere. So it's been interesting. We've all adjusted to wearing masks and, you know, being careful and washing hands and that kind of stuff. My girls have just, you know, got the cute masks and they just stepped right in. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we got to do, you know?
Yeah.
I heard somewhere, maybe you heard that, I heard somewhere the other day, that term called moral fatigue.
Yeah, I've heard
And
it.
right, you heard that? Like, I found that fascinating and how we're all kind of suffering for it because, you know, all these decisions that used to be so easy to make, you second guess now. I know last weekend I'm in South Carolina and we were supposed to go to Huntsville, Alabama to see my parents, but my youngest got sick. And in the past, maybe my other daughter and I would have just gone, but I was like, oh my gosh, we can't go. We don't know what she has, and we don't know
Yeah.
if we have something that we might bring to them, right? So all these
Yeah.
decisions, it's funny how, right, like you second guess everything now, and it has a bigger consequence, I guess. And I was like, wow, when I read Moral Fatigue, I thought, gosh, that really kind of like speaks to me because I think
Mhm.
everyone's feeling it because we all have families and parents and, right, people that you don't want to expose.
Yeah.
You know, have you had to make adjustments too yourself? Just, you
Uh,
know,
of of course, in a huge way.
yeah,
Just like what you said about going to see someone. You know, we want to get out, but then we're thinking to ourselves, well, we don't know who has what, and we don't know if
yeah.
we have it because of the symptoms. The symptoms vary. You know, they say, well, you'll
Oh,
break out in a
yeah.
fever and you'll have diarrhea or whatever, or you can never experience anything. So we've been feeling that
Yeah.
same way. We want to take a trip somewhere, but we're like, okay, we don't know who we came in contact with that we could, you know, give it to somebody else or vice versa. So it's been difficult.
That's great. Yeah, right. And then you just kind of want to go. And it's like, my husband and I are like, we used to like cruising and everything. And we're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
off the chart for a while. And then just going to maybe like a bed and breakfast or something. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. You know, and that's been really weird for me. Because you
Yeah.
know, like prior to this, I didn't think twice. A 6-hour
Yeah.
drive to my parents' house? But now I'm like, okay, where are we going to stop? Who might we, like you said, who might we run into?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's been very crazy, but thankfully, nothing has happened. But like you said earlier, when someone tells you to stay in, you kind of make yourself go out. I found myself
Yeah.
doing that. I say, you know, I work from home too. And I'm like, you know what? No, you're not going to tell me to stay home. I'm going to go out.
That's
And I'm
right.
like, what am I doing out here? There's nobody out here, you know?
But you feel like you gotta. I've got to get out. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, so the dog's gotten a ton of walks because
Yeah.
might as well get out and get some fresh air, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
then I know, so, and now I discovered, well, my friends have been doing it for years and I don't know why I didn't, but they were been doing the, like Walmart pickup, you know, the grocery where you can order online and do, so
Yeah.
now I do that. So I even have less stores I go into.
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
like, ah, dear, I really got to find somewhere, you know, a park or something that I can go to.
So now that you're adjusting, what's new for you? What's coming up?
I publish with Harlequin Heartwarming, so I have a book coming out in December that's part of a continuity series. It's the Blackwell Sister series. that I wrote with Melinda and Anna too, and two other authors. So those are releasing now, and mine's the fifth one in the series. So that'll be out in December. I'm in the process of submitting some new proposals to my editor. I just turned in my 17th book, and that was the end of the contract. So that one will be out in April, and I'm just trying to think. I have some other new story ideas, and I'm just trying to see where they would fit.
Right.
Who, what publishing house might want them, and we'll see. So I'm in
So,
kind of a relaxing space, actually. Not on
gotcha.
deadline. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So when people meet you, when I guess pre-COVID, when people would meet you in person, what would be their first impression?
The first impression.
Yeah.
My girls tell me I laugh a lot. I'm laughing
Hmm.
right now. I just laugh. Yeah, I like to laugh. I like to have fun. I don't like to take a lot of stuff too seriously because, as you know, even with the pandemic right now, life can be heavy, and so
Yeah.
I like to, laugh. I just like to laugh and add some lightness into someone's day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of my motive for the, and if my books can, if somebody's super stressed out or, somebody's working in a hospital and they can pick up my book and take an hour or two and just escape, and just read something fun, that's what I want, just to give somebody just a moment.
Right. I can definitely feel that through the phone. So let's tell everybody where they could follow you through social media and purchase your books.
I have a website. It's CariLynnWebb.com. You can purchase the books on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble, and Harlequin.com actually has them all as well. And you can find me on Facebook, Cari Lynn Webb, and on Twitter. And I'm just dipping my toe into Instagram. There just seems to be so many platforms now, as you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get going on Instagram. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. My girls keep telling me I need to be on Instagram.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. We're talking to best-selling author Cari Lynn Webb about her latest book, Thankfully in Love. Cari, it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks. It was so much fun speaking to you too. Hope we get to do this again.
Oh, I hope so too.